The human enters the war arena. The sun burned high over the alien city of Zyril. It was the day of the blood trial, a deadly fight where warriors proved their strength. The crowd filled the stone stands, shouting for violence. Alien leaders sat on their high chairs, waiting to see blood. In the center of the arena, one strange figure stood alone. A human. He had no armor, no weapons, just his hands. The crowd laughed when they saw him. "Is this a joke?" someone shouted. "Send in the real fighter." But he didn't flinch. He stood still, looking at the ground, breathing slow. His name was Jace. No one knew it yet. But after today, they would never forget it. From the royal balcony, a tall alien woman watched him closely. She wore silver armor, her blue eyes sharp. She was Princess Kareen, daughter of the Supreme Commander. Cold, fearless, respected by all. She had seen warriors from every world. But this human looked different. He wasn't afraid. He wasn't proud either. He just waited. Then, the gate opened. 10 alien warriors rushed into the arena first. Big, armored, and loud. Each held a weapon. Jace didn't move. One of them charged forward, swinging a blade. The crowd rose to cheer. It would be a quick kill, but it wasn't. Jace stepped to the side. Fast. Too fast. His hand grabbed the alien's arm, twisted, and broke it with one snap. The warrior screamed. The next one came, and Jace hit his neck with one sharp blow. The alien dropped. Unconscious. Kareen leaned forward. Her mouth opened slightly, surprised. This human was not normal. Within minutes, 10 warriors were down. Broken bones. Cracked jaws. No blood from Jace. Only sweat on his forehead. The crowd stopped laughing. The next wave came, 20 this time. More careful. More afraid. Still, Jace fought alone. He used no weapons. Only fists and legs. But each move was perfect. Clean. Silent. One warrior tried to grab him from behind. Jace ducked, spun, and used the alien's own weight to throw him into 3 others. Dust rose in the air. Bones cracked. Kareen's eyes didn't leave him. Her heart beat faster. The announcer shouted, 50 left. Take him down. But now, no one wanted to go first. Jace stood in the middle, breathing hard but steady. Blood dripped from his knuckles, not his own. His shirt was torn. Muscles moved under bruised skin. His eyes stayed cold, like he had seen too many battles already. Kareen whispered to her advisor. "Where did we find him?" "No records," the advisor said. "He came from the outer dust. No clan. No rank. He offered to fight for food." She looked again. A man who fought like that, for food. More warriors charged. Jace moved like wind, low, fast, and silent. He dropped them one by one. It was not luck. It was skill. Painful, perfect skill. Now, the crowd was quiet. 60, 70, 80. No one could touch him. He fell once. A large warrior tackled him to the ground. But Jace wrapped his legs around the alien's neck, twisted, and the fight ended in seconds. He stood again, chest rising and falling fast. Blood on his face, but his eyes still calm. The last 10 warriors circled him. One of them said, "We don't want to die." Jace said nothing, but his hands rose again. They charged anyway. 5 seconds later, it was over. The arena floor was full of bodies, alive, but broken. Some groaned. Some lay still. And in the middle, Jace stood alone. Silence. Then, one noble shouted, "He is too dangerous. Kill him now." Kareen stood up. Jace looked up at her for the first time. Their eyes met. She didn't know why, but something inside her moved. He had fought for nothing. No honor. No name. No reward. He should have died, but he didn't. He fought with the strength of 100 lives. The order for his death echoed in the arena. Her voice cut through the silence. "Wait." Every head turned toward her. Even Jace looked confused. Kareen said slowly, clearly, "He does not die today." And with those words, everything changed. This was no longer a fight. This was the beginning of something else, something no one, especially not her, could have seen coming. The battle that changed her. Kareen couldn't sleep that night. The cheers of the crowd had stopped. The warriors were being treated for injuries, and the blood had been cleaned from the arena floor. But the image of the human, standing alone, calm and strong, stayed in her mind. No one had ever made her heart feel like this. She had seen champions win before. But Jace didn't fight for fame. He fought like someone who had already lost everything. Her father was furious. He shouted during the council meeting, "The human made fools of our elite warriors. We should have ended him when we had the chance." Karine stayed silent. She knew speaking now would only make things worse, but her hands were clenched under the table. Back in her private chambers, she kept thinking about how Jace had moved, how he had taken down stronger enemies without even using weapons. His silence spoke louder than any warrior's cry. He didn't scream. He didn't brag. He just fought. Later that evening, she gave an order that shocked her guards. "Bring the human to me," she said. The guards hesitated. "He is dangerous," one warned. Karine's eyes narrowed. "So am I." When Jace entered the room, his hands were tied. His face was calm, unreadable. He looked around once, then fixed his gaze on Karine. She looked at him too, this time not as a princess, but as a woman who had just seen something rare. Something real. "Why did you fight like that?" she asked quietly. He didn't answer at first. Then, finally, he spoke. "Because no one else would." His voice was low, but it cut straight through her. No pride, no anger, just truth. Karine had been trained to lead armies, to follow rules, to never question orders. But this human, he followed no one. And yet, he survived. "I saved your life today," she said, standing in front of him. That he nodded once. "Yes." She stepped closer. "Do you know why?" "No," he replied. Karine hesitated, then said, "Because something in me changed. When I saw you fight. I don't know what it is, but I couldn't let them kill you." Jace didn't reply, but his eyes softened just a little. For the first time in years, she felt unsure. This human wasn't just a fighter. He was something more. But what? Suddenly, a voice outside shouted, "Princess, you are needed." Karine stepped back as her guards opened the door. A soldier rushed in. "3 nobles have demanded the human's life. They say your actions were against law." She felt anger rise in her chest. "Tell them I will meet them." But he stays here. That night, as the city buzzed with gossip, Karine sat alone by the fire. The human rested on the floor, not sleeping, just watching the flames. She looked at him again. "You don't belong here," she said. "I know," he replied. "But maybe," she whispered, "neither do I." The battle in the arena was over. But a different kind of battle had just begun, inside her heart, and for the first time in her life. She wasn't sure who she was fighting for. She broke the rules to save him. The hall was filled with nobles the next morning. Their voices were sharp, their faces angry. "You broke tradition," one shouted. "No princess has ever claimed a human," another roared. Karine stood tall, her armor shining, but her heart beating fast. Behind her, Jace stood silent, unchained, unbothered. He didn't look like a slave. He looked like a storm waiting to rise again. She had made her choice, but now the entire city questioned her. They said she was weak. They said she was confused. But deep inside, she knew the truth. She wasn't confused. She had never felt more awake. One noble slammed his hand on the table. "This human must be handed over. He is a threat to order." Karine stepped forward. Her voice was cold and steady. "He defeated 100 of our best warriors with no weapons. If he is a threat, then perhaps our order is weak." Gasps filled the hall. Her father rose slowly. His eyes were full of fire. "You shame your bloodline. You stand between us and a dangerous creature. What is he to you?" Karine didn't blink. "He is proof that our rules are broken, and I will not let him be destroyed for surviving." Jace watched her, his face unreadable. He didn't ask her to protect him. He didn't beg. He simply stood there like a man who had seen too much death to fear anything anymore. After the meeting, guards tried to lead Jace away. "No," Karine said sharply. "He stays with me." "But, princess," he stays. They obeyed. But whispers spread like fire. Karine had broken sacred law. She had chosen a human over her own kind. That night, she sat across from Jace in her private chamber. A meal was placed between them. He didn't touch it. "You trust no one?" she asked. He shook his head. "Trust gets you killed." She stared into the fire. "And yet, you fought. You stood in front of death with no fear." "I've already died once," he replied softly. She looked at him then, truly looked. His body carried scars, but his soul carried more. Pain, loss, silence. Yet behind his stillness, there was something unshakable, a kind of strength she had never seen before. "You didn't ask me to save you," she said. No, he answered. But you did. The words hung in the air. For the first time, she felt something deeper than duty. She had lived in power all her life, but now she felt powerless in front of this quiet man. And strangely, she didn't hate it. When she stood to leave, she said, "You are safe here. I promise." Jace looked at her. Don't make promises you can't keep. But she had already made one. Not just to him, to herself. She would protect him, not because he was weak, but because he had fought harder than anyone she had ever known. And if the world turned against them, then so be it. She would face it all, standing beside him. You touched him. The first threat the palace was quiet, but tension pulsed through its walls. Everyone knew about the human. Servants whispered his name. Guards stepped back when he passed. Karin's chambers, once empty and cold, now felt like a battlefield waiting to explode. She had protected a human warrior, and now the world around her was preparing to strike back. Late in the evening, the chamber doors burst open. 3 noble daughters stormed inside, their faces filled with disgust and jealousy. Dressed in royal silks and pride, they glared at Karin. "We heard the rumors," one of them snapped. "You let the human stay with you?" Karin looked up, calm and unbothered. "Yes." Another hissed. "You let him eat from your table? Sleep inside your walls?" "I did." The third stepped closer, her voice full of poison. "Did you touch him?" Jace stood in the corner, watching quietly. His arms were crossed, his eyes unreadable. He could see their fear beneath the anger. They weren't mad because he was dangerous. They were mad because they couldn't control him. Karin rose slowly. "He fought alone against 100 of our best. Not for glory, not for praise. He earned his place beside me. If you can't accept that, then leave." The nobles were silent for a moment. Then one of them made a mistake. She turned to Jace and said, "You're just a tool. You think she'll care for you when this all falls apart?" Jace didn't move. But when the noble girl reached out to push him, his hand shot up and caught her wrist midair. In one swift motion, he twisted her arm behind her back. She screamed, "Don't," he said coldly, "ever touch me." The other 2 gasped, backing away. Karin didn't stop him. After a second, Jace let her go. The girl stumbled back, shaking. "You'll regret this," she spat, eyes now full of fear instead of pride. Karin stepped between them. "No, you will." The nobles left in silence. When the room was quiet again, Karin looked at Jace. "You didn't kill her." "I don't kill unless I have to," he said. She nodded, slowly. "That will make them even more afraid." Jace leaned against the wall, arms still folded. "Let them be." She walked to him, her voice lower now. "You don't have to fight anymore." He looked into her eyes. "You still don't understand. I'm not fighting to survive. I'm fighting because your world doesn't know peace." For a moment, they stood close. Not warrior and princess. Just 2 people surrounded by chaos, trying to hold on to something real. And for the first time, Karin realized the war was not just outside, that it was inside her too. And she had already chosen her side. The truth about the human warrior. Karin had read thousands of files on soldiers, killers, and rebels. But no record existed for the man who now walked beside her. Jace, the human. A mystery wrapped in silence. She had ordered her top advisors to uncover his past. What they found only deepened the questions. He has no official birthplace. Her intelligence chief reported. No homeworld in the last 100 years has listed Earth as active. His DNA matches no known registry. No history, she asked, only rumors. Stories from miners. Smugglers. A ghost from a dead world. Karin dismissed them all. She had seen enough with her own eyes. No file could explain the way he moved, like a man who'd survived more than war. Like someone who had carried pain on his back until pain gave up. She met Jace in the private gardens that morning. The air was fresh, and the city below the balcony was waking up. He stood near the stone edge, looking out. She approached quietly. "Is your world really gone?" she asked. He nodded. "Burned. Forgotten. Nothing left." "Then what made you fight like that? What are you trying to protect?" Jace turned, his eyes not angry, but tired. "I fight because I promised someone I would live, even if I'm the last one standing." She didn't press further. She knew that kind of pain, the kind that keeps breathing even when everything else dies. But Karin had to ask one more question. "Why didn't you kill them in the arena?" "You could have." His answer was quiet. Because killing without purpose is no victory. They already knew they lost. That shook her more than any scream or threat could. Mercy from a human who had every reason to destroy. He was not like her people. Not like any being she had ever known. He was broken in a way that made him stronger. She sat beside him. "You're not a slave," she said. He looked at her. "You don't own me." She smiled slightly. "No, I don't." There was a long silence. Then he said, "But I stay because I choose to." Her chest tightened at those words. Not because he submitted, but because he didn't have to. He chose her protection. He chose to stay. Later that night, Karine stood alone in her father's war room. He had summoned her for a private talk. "The human," he said, "is dangerous. You know this." "He's also honest," she replied. "That makes him more dangerous." Her father placed a small device on the table. A command link. "If he becomes a threat, press this. It will alert the city guard." Karine looked at the device. Then, slowly, she pushed it back toward him. "If you think he's the threat," she said, "you're not paying attention." And with that, she turned and walked out. She didn't need a warning system. She already knew what the real danger was. That it wasn't the human warrior. That it was how far she was now willing to go to keep him safe. They tried to take him back. The city woke to the sound of marching boots. The High Council had spoken. The human was no longer under Karine's protection. They had labeled him a living weapon, too dangerous to walk free. Dozens of elite guards moved through the palace, their armor shining, their orders clear. "Take Jace alive, or not at all." Karine stood at the front gates of her tower, her cloak billowing in the wind. She had known this would come. The nobles wouldn't rest until they saw her humiliated and the human locked in chains, or worse. But she didn't step aside, not even as her father's general approached. "You stand against the will of the council?" he asked coldly. "I stand for what is right," she said. "This is treason." "No. This is the first act of courage anyone in your circle has seen in years." The general frowned. "Move, princess." Behind her, Jace appeared, calm, unarmed, but not afraid. He walked beside her, eyes fixed on the line of soldiers waiting to take him. "I can handle them," he said quietly. Karine didn't answer. Her heart pounded, but not from fear. From fury. They saw Jace as a problem, a tool, a threat. But she saw something else. A man who had survived hell and still chose not to become it. "They're going to try to break you," she whispered to him, but he nodded. "They can try." The soldiers stepped forward, ready to strike. Then Jace stepped beside Karine, not hiding behind her, not running, just ready. Point. One of the guards shouted, "Seize the human." Two moved fast, too fast, but Jace was faster. In a blur, he grabbed one by the throat and pushed the other into a wall with just a flick of his leg. The rest froze. Karine didn't stop him. She looked the general in the eye. "Do you really want to do this?" The general hesitated. His soldiers stood still, fear growing with every second of silence. Jace wasn't just powerful. He was unshakable. Every movement was a warning. Karine spoke again, her voice low but sharp. "You think taking him will protect your power, but all you're doing is starting a war you won't win. We'll return with the full force of the city." The general growled. "Then I'll be ready," she said. The guards backed off, for now. Later that evening, Karine sat with Jace inside her private chamber. He had bruises on his arms, but nothing serious. She handed him water. "They'll come again," he said. "I know. They'll bring more. Then we'll fight." Jace looked at her. "I'm serious. You don't have to do this. You could. Walk away now. Stay safe." Karine's jaw tightened. "I've had safety all my life, but I've never had purpose until I met you." He didn't speak, but something flickered in his eyes. Not emotion, not yet, but recognition. This wasn't about protection anymore. This was about defiance, about standing against everything that had kept her silent and obedient for so long. And if she had to burn the old rules to protect what was right, she would do it without regret. He fought for freedom. She fought for him. The alarms rang before sunrise. Karine stood by the window, watching the sky fill with warships. Her father had made his decision. There would be no more warnings, no more demands. The entire royal fleet was coming for one man. Jace stood behind her, already pulling tight the worn straps of armor gifted by palace blacksmiths. He didn't speak. He didn't panic. But he knew this battle would be different. This time, it wasn't just for survival, that it was for something more. Karine turned to face him. They'll send assassins, drones, mindshockers. You won't survive alone. He looked at her with the same calm she had come to understand. I'm not alone. For the first time, Karine put down her royal crest, removed her command badge, and tied her hair like a warrior. Not as a leader, not as royalty, but as a fighter beside the man who had changed her world. Word spread fast across the palace. The princess had chosen the human. Soldiers loyal to Karine gathered at her side. Not many, not enough to match the royal army. But they didn't care. Jace stood at the front, his face smeared with ash, eyes sharp as steel. When the first blast hit the outer gates, he didn't wait. He ran toward it. They came like a wave, machines, soldiers, elite guards trained to kill. Without mercy. But they weren't ready for him. Jace moved like lightning. Every strike was deadly. Every motion full of purpose. Behind him, Karine fought too, blades spinning, commands sharp. The battle was chaos, but between them, there was order. Rhythm. Trust. A drone launched a missile toward Karine. Jace saw it and dove, knocking her down just as it exploded. Dust filled the air, but when it cleared, they were both alive. She looked up at him. You never stopped saving me. Asterisk. He breathed hard. You never stopped being worth it. The enemy kept coming, but something had shifted. The city guards saw the way the human fought. They saw the princess bleeding beside him, and still refusing to retreat. One by one, soldiers began to lower their weapons. The war wasn't just physical now. It was inside every heart watching. Who was the enemy? The one who fought with pride, or the one who fought with purpose? By sundown, the battle was over. The royal fleet retreated. The city grew silent. Karine and Jace stood at the center of the broken courtyard. Around them, injured soldiers lay. The palace was cracked, but still standing. And so were they. Her father was gone. The throne empty. The people gathered. No one spoke. Until one voice said, she chose him. Another answered, no. They chose each other. Karine turned to Jace. He was covered in cuts and bruises. But when he looked at her, he smiled. Just a little. You're free now, she said. He looked around. So are you. From that day forward, no one touched him. Not because of fear, but because they respected what he had become. A legend. A protector. A man who stood alone and changed everything. And Karine, she never left his side.